In this session, we're going to talk about actions, how those allow defining logic, and how they enable code reusability. To reuse code, we're going to create actions, and those actions will contain logic flows. Let's start by defining what an action is. Essentially, an action is where logic can be defined in outsystems. Depending on the action's type, this logic will either be executed on the server side or on the client side. Let's have a look at what action flows are. Hex. Every action has a logic flow in it, which is where logic is actually defined. In a logic flow, we have a start node, where the logic execution begins. And then, there can be one or more end nodes, which will finish the flow. Within screen actions, the destination node can also be used to redirect the user to a screen, in web and mobile. The download node can also be used in some situations, like in web apps, to allow end users to download files. In the flow itself, there are several tools that we can use to build logic. We can have ifs or switches to create conditional paths, or assigns to set the value of existing variables. There are three types of actions that can be defined in outsystems. Screen actions are defined inside a screen and are usually bound to the widgets that are part of that screen. For instance, a screen action may be executed whenever a button is pressed. Since they are defined inside a screen, their scope includes what is defined at that screen's level. So, besides screen widgets, the scope also includes aggregates defined at the screen level, screen input parameters, and local variables. Then you have client actions. These are somewhat similar to screen actions. However, client actions are used throughout the module and not bound specifically within a single screen. It is important to know that these two types of actions execute on the browser or device. Finally, we have server actions, which allow defining logic that is to be executed on the server side. When we talk about code reusability, we're actually talking about logical code reusability. This reusable logic is provided through actions. Code reusability enables developers to better maintain their code base and focus on smaller problems to solve by defining smaller and reusable pieces of logic. In the end, this means that within an application you will define several screen actions, client actions, and server actions. It's also important to note that screen actions may have input parameters and local variables, whereas client actions and server actions may also have output parameters. Within an application module, several screens will exist, and inside each screen you can define multiple screen actions. Screen actions may reuse other screen actions from within the same screen, but not from other screens. Remember that the scope of screen actions is limited to the screen where you define them. Similarly, client actions may reuse or call other client actions. The same is also true for server actions. A server action may call itself or other server actions. As mentioned before, a screen action from one screen cannot call a screen action from another screen. However, screen actions may call client actions. Both screen actions and client actions execute on the device, while server actions execute on the server. This means that a network connection is required at runtime in order to call a server action from within a screen action, or to call a server action from within a client action. Each type of action is created in a different place. You create screen actions inside screens under the Interface tab, but you create client and server actions in the Logic tab inside their respective folders. Both client actions and server actions may be set as a function. This restricts them to have only one output parameter and makes them available to be used inside expressions. Their flow is defined visually as any other action. Also, when a client action is set as a function, it can only call other client actions.